His 9-year-old daughter was crying in the back seat. A broken window, blood on the asphalt, and 3 officers still shouting at him to stop resisting even though he hadn't moved. One of them laughed when he saw the toy badge around the girl's neck. "Guess Daddy thought he could play hero," the officer said. But what none of them knew, what was locked in that glove compartment, was about to flip their world upside down. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from. The SUV was parked in the right spot. No hazard lights, no engine running, just a man waiting for his daughter to come out of school. A father. A quiet Tuesday. Nothing unusual. Dorian McKinley adjusted the collar of his jacket and glanced at the school gates through the windshield. It was 2:57 p.m. The bell would ring in 3 minutes. He checked the mirror once more, making sure no cars were behind him, then reached into the back seat. "You hungry, Bug?" he asked, smiling. His daughter, Nia, held up her half-eaten granola bar and nodded. "Only a little. We'll grab something on the way home." "You did great today?" "Ma'am, Ms. Ledbetter said my book report was way above grade level." Dorian chuckled. "That's my girl." But his smile faded when he noticed the black and white cruiser slowed down as it turned the corner. He felt it, that familiar shift in the air. The tension that only existed in the presence of uniforms and authority. It was a feeling he'd grown up with, even learned to suppress. But today, he couldn't. Not with Nia in the car. The patrol car rolled past, then braked. It reversed slowly and stopped just behind Dorian's SUV. He tensed. 2 officers exited. One approached the driver's side, the other circled toward the passenger window. Dorian cracked his window halfway, both hands still visible on the steering wheel. "Afternoon, sir," said the taller officer. "Everything all right here?" Dorian kept his tone polite, level. "Just picking up my daughter." The officer's gaze darted to the school gate, then to the girl in the back seat. "We got a call about a suspicious vehicle parked outside the school. Matches this description." "From who?" "Doesn't matter. Mind stepping out of the car for a moment?" Dorian paused. He saw the second officer now tapping on the passenger window where Nia sat. "Sir," he said carefully, "I haven't broken any laws. I'm in a public space, waiting for a child with clear ID in the window. I don't consent to searches." The officer's jaw tensed. He didn't like that response. "Step out, now." Dorian unbuckled slowly, breathing evenly. He knew how fast these things could spiral. As soon as he opened the door, the first officer grabbed his arm and turned him around. "Hands behind your back." "What are you doing?" Nia cried from inside. "Sir, you're being detained for failure to comply," the officer snapped. "I did comply, but it didn't matter." The handcuffs were already closing, and with them, the eyes of parents walking toward the gate, most of them not looking long enough to understand what they were seeing. Just a black man, cuffed near a school. Another story they wouldn't ask about. Another silence they'd pretend not to notice. But what none of them knew, not the officers, not the principal who would later lie, not even Dorian's own daughter, was that inside the locked glove compartment sat a badge. And not just any badge. It was issued by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Dorian McKinley was not a criminal. He was a federal prosecutor. And now, everything was about to unravel. The handcuffs bit into his wrists. Dorian stood silent, surrounded by shouts he didn't recognize, a mix of teachers, officers, and a few curious parents lingering at the gates. Nia's voice cut through it all. "Daddy, what are they doing?" Officer Maynard, the shorter of the two, turned toward the girl. "Stay in the car, miss." But Nia was already climbing out, clutching her pink backpack, tears clinging to her cheeks. Dorian tried to twist toward her. "Baby, stay back. Don't move." "Is he armed?" Officer Reynolds asked sharply. "No, I'm not. And my daughter is 8 years old." Maynard moved forward, stepping between the child and her father. "Sir, we need to search your vehicle. You don't have probable cause." Maynard didn't respond. Instead, he yanked open the driver's side door and began pulling items from the glove compartment. The badge case was at the bottom, a dark leather rectangle embossed with a gold eagle. He saw it, touched it, paused, but didn't stop. He grabbed the case, opened it, and blinked. Reynolds glanced over. "What is it?" Maynard hesitated. "Some kind of ID." "Some kind?" "Read it out loud." Maynard shifted uncomfortably. Then quietly. "Dorian McKinley, Assistant United States Attorney, Southern District." Reynolds frowned, looked at Dorian, then back at the badge. "This legit?" "It's real," Dorian answered flatly. "And you just opened federal property without a warrant." For a moment, there was silence. Uneasy. Heavy. Reynolds stepped forward, as if to inspect the ID himself, but stopped halfway. Instead, he turned toward Maynard and said low, "We need to call this in. Now." Maynard didn't move. "You sure it's not fake? Go ahead. Make that call. But be ready to explain why you cuffed a federal prosecutor on school grounds in front of his child." Maynard's expression hardened. "We had reason to investigate. Based on what? My skin? My car? The fact that I was early to pick up my daughter? Don't get hostile, sir." Dorian laughed bitterly. "I'm the only one in cuffs. Who's hostile?" Nia took a step closer, now beside her father. She clutched his sleeve. "Can I take them off?" she asked, pointing to the handcuffs. Reynolds didn't answer. He just turned and walked back to the cruiser, radio already in hand. Maynard stood awkwardly, the badge still in his fingers. He looked around. The crowd was thinning, but phones were out. Faces recorded silently, unsure of what they were witnessing. Eventually, Reynolds returned. They confirmed it. "He's on record. Active." Maynard's jaw twitched. "So what now?" Dorian raised his chin. "Now, you uncuff me and start writing a report that explains why 2 patrol officers detained a federal attorney without cause, terrified his child, and rummaged through a locked compartment without consent." Reynolds muttered something under his breath, then moved to unlock the cuffs. Each click echoed like thunder. Dorian stepped back, rubbed his wrists, and looked Maynard in the eyes. "This won't vanish. Not this time." He took Nia's hand. "Let's go." They walked past both officers. No one said a word. But as they reached the car door, Maynard called out, "Sir." Dorian turned. Maynard held out the badge case, still open. "Forgot this." Dorian took it without a word, then got in the car. The last thing he saw in the mirror was Maynard's face, not guilty, not ashamed, but something colder, resentful. Because the only thing worse than the black man they feared was the one they couldn't control. The next morning, Dorian sat across from his supervisor, District Attorney Felton Rowe. The office was quiet. Too quiet. A wall clock ticked behind them, each second louder than the last. Rowe leaned back, fingers steepled, jaw locked. "I got a call this morning from the precinct." Dorian didn't flinch. "Let me guess. Unfortunate misunderstanding. That's one way to spin it." Dorian waited, letting the silence do the work. Rowe sighed. "Dorian, I need you to tell me exactly what happened yesterday. Not emotionally. Not as a father. Just the facts." Dorian's eyes narrowed. "Facts?" He leaned forward. "I was detained without cause, handcuffed in front of my daughter, and my car searched without consent, while my federal ID sat locked in the glove box. Those are the facts." Rowe nodded slowly. "I hear you. But we also need to look at this from all angles." "All angles? You mean theirs?" Rowe didn't answer. Instead, he opened a thin file folder. One page. Blank. "This is the report they submitted. There is no incident record." Dorian froze. "No report?" Rowe tapped the folder. "According to the 12th Precinct, there was no formal stop. No arrest. No detainment. Just a brief interaction with a concerned parent." Dorian's voice dropped. "They erased it? They never wrote it." That landed harder. He leaned back, suddenly exhausted. "They're burying it before it even breathes. That's not your problem. You can file a complaint, escalate it internally. But from our end, I'd advise." "No." Rowe blinked. "No?" Dorian stood. "I'm not filing quietly. I'm not advising anything. I'm pressing charges." Rowe's tone hardened. "Against who?" "Officers Reynolds and Maynard." "Dorian." "They're covered by internal affairs. You know how this works. Better than most." He stepped closer to the desk. "And that's why I'm not backing down." Rowe rubbed his forehead. "Do you have video? Witnesses?" There were parents nearby. Phones were out. But no names. No statements. No verified footage. Dorian nodded grimly. "Not yet." Rowe closed the folder. "Look, you're one of our best. Everyone knows that. But this? If you go public, if you push too hard, they won't attack the badge. They'll attack you." Dorian's voice was calm now. Too calm. "Then let them come." He turned to leave. But Rowe spoke once more. "Dorian, one last thing." Dorian stopped at the door. "What?" "Your next 2 trials, they're being reassigned." Dorian turned. "Why?" Rowe didn't look up. "Conflict of interest. That's the official line." Dorian's heart sank. He knew what this was. The beginning. The quiet retaliation. They were isolating him. One case at a time. One desk at a time. And it had only just begun. 3 days passed. No calls from the precinct. No apology. No updates. Just silence. Dorian sat at the breakfast table, Nia at his side, eating cereal without speaking. She hadn't been the same since that day. Daddy? Yeah? Are they gonna come again? He looked at her. Who? The men with the vests. Dorian closed his eyes briefly. No, baby. Not again. But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He picked up. Hello? A voice, hurried, hushed. Mr. McKinley? I saw what happened Tuesday. At the school. Dorian sat up straighter. Who is this? Just a parent. I got it on video. But I don't want my name out there. I'm scared. Where's the video? A pause. I uploaded it. To a private link. But it's already been taken down. I tried again. Same thing. Dorian's blood ran cold. Send me the original. I did. To your office email. The line went dead. Dorian opened his laptop, heart racing. Inbox. Empty. He checked spam. Junk. Drafts. Nothing. Then he saw it. A new folder on his desktop, monitored. His chest tightened. Someone had accessed his system. He wasn't just being ignored. He was being watched. He called his office IT. Hey, can you check my desktop logs? Something's off. Sorry, Mr. McKinley, we're locked out. Admin privileges on your terminal were revoked this morning. By who? Don't know. Came from higher up. He hung up. Called the parent number again. No answer. Tried a second time. Disconnected. The fear hit him fully now. Not for himself. For his daughter. He packed a bag for Nia. Dropped her at her aunt's house across town. Said it was just for the weekend. Then returned to his apartment. Alone. He opened a new email draft. Encrypted. Subject line, civil rights violation. Documentation begins. He attached a typed statement. Names. Time. Location. Then clicked Save as Draft. Not send. Not yet. Because they were watching. And he needed them to see he wasn't afraid. But he also knew what came next. The phone call. The warning. The threat masked as advice. They always came. And they always sounded the same. The subpoena was thin. Just one page. No signature. No official seal. It arrived in a plain envelope, shoved under his apartment door. Dorian picked it up without opening it. He didn't need to. He'd seen this trick before, long ago, during an internal case involving a whistleblower in Baltimore. Fake subpoenas meant to scare someone quiet. This one wasn't even trying hard. Still, he opened it. You are required to appear before the Civil Review Board regarding your complaint against Officers Reynolds and Maynard. Failure to appear may result in sanctions. There was no date, no location, no phone number. He smiled bitterly. So this is how they're playing it. The same morning, his office access badge failed at the gate. Security didn't know why. Neither did the building manager. Neither, apparently, did his own assistant, who stammered when she called him from a private number. I got an email from upstairs. Said you were on leave. Effective when? This morning. Who authorized it? She paused. It doesn't say. By noon, his name had disappeared from the internal attorney directory. By 3 p.m., his case log had been reassigned. By 6 p.m., the precinct posted a public statement. No internal complaints filed against any officers involved in Tuesday's events. A lie. And a very loud one. But Dorian didn't flinch. He waited until night. Pulled the file out from his locked drawer. The one labeled quiet cases, incidents he'd logged but never processed. Officers disciplined quietly. Complaints redirected. All hidden by paper. He found what he was looking for. A 2019 entry on Officer L. Maynard. Unprovoked force. A teenage boy. School hallway. No charges filed. The mother's statement had been retracted after a resolution meeting with Department Legal Counsel. But Dorian had kept a copy. It wasn't admissible. But it was leverage. He printed it again. Then opened a new document. To United States Department of Justice, Office for Civil Rights. He didn't send it. He saved it. Then encrypted it. Then backed it up. 3 times. They were trying to erase him. But he'd already prepared for that. He wasn't fighting as a father anymore. He was fighting as a federal attorney. And the law, the real law, was something they'd forgotten he knew how to use. The first envelope arrived at City Hall by courier. Not email. Not fax. Printed. Signed. Stamped with the seal of the United States Attorney's Office. Even though he was on leave, Dorian still had access to old DOJ templates. He just modified the sender line. Gave them a name they'd fear. Special Counsel Liaison Division. a department that hadn't existed in 20 years. It worked. By noon, 3 assistant clerks were emailing each other in panic. By 2 p.m., the mayor's office forwarded the document to the city's legal department. By 5, Internal Affairs had called Dorian's cell twice. He didn't answer. Instead, he was sitting inside a quiet library 2 blocks from the courthouse, typing a second document. This one was real. Title 18, Section 242, Deprivation of Rights under Color of Law. He printed it, highlighted key passages, added the names, then hand-delivered it to the reception desk at the local FBI field office. He said only 3 words. "For your director," and left. No badge, no announcement, no drama, just paper. But inside that paper, names, timestamps, phone logs, access denials, false subpoenas, erased reports. Facts. He knew they'd read it. He also knew they wouldn't respond. Not yet. This wasn't about response. This was about fear. And that was beginning to grow. That night, he walked home. Alone. Cold wind pushing against his collar. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. McKinley?" The voice was female. Controlled. Government trained. "Who is this?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is this. We saw the file." He said nothing. "You're creating movement, sir. But not everyone wants that." Still silence. "You have one chance to walk away." Quietly. The file disappears. Your job comes back. Your name stays clean. He finally spoke. "And if I don't? Then you're alone." Dorian looked up at the dark city skyline. "I already am." The line went dead. He slid the phone into his pocket, kept walking, past the precinct that erased his complaint, past the courthouse that locked him out, past the department where his badge used to matter. And he smiled, because they thought silence was power. But Dorian knew the truth. Power was knowing how to weaponize the rules they bent. 10 years ago, when Dorian was still a junior prosecutor, he'd started a personal project. He called it the Archive. Not a legal database, not an official record, just a quiet folder, copied from case files over the years, internal reviews, officer complaints, dropped charges, sealed settlements. Everything that smelled of rot. He wasn't supposed to keep them, but he had. And now, the archive was his. He reopened it for the first time in years. It was bigger than he remembered. 37 incidents, 19 officers, 12 internal memos with redactions so heavy they looked like blacked-out walls. He scanned each file, highlighted dates, marked patterns. 3 names stood out: Reynolds, Maynard, and a third, Chief Haver. He hadn't known the chief was connected. But in 2016, Haver signed off on a disciplinary waiver for a shooting in Westwood, an unarmed man, suspected of robbery. No video ever released. Witness statements missing. And who led the patrol that night? Officer Reynolds. Dorian stared at the screen, heart steady. Then he did what he hadn't done before. He printed all of it. 2 full boxes of paper. He walked them to the private FedEx office outside city limits. Paid in cash. No return address. Destination: Office of the Federal Public Defender, Civil Rights Division, Washington, D.C. No note. No explanation. He didn't need one. Someone would read it. And even if no one moved, the system would twitch. Because that's all he needed. A tremor. Fear wasn't built on explosions. It was built on inches. He left the FedEx store as the clerk sealed the last box. His phone rang. This time, a real number. Department line. His former office. He answered. McKinley. A long pause. Then Rose's voice. "What did you send?" "What they buried." "You don't know what you've just done." "I know exactly what I've done. They're going to ruin you." Dorian's tone was flat. "Let them try." "You think you're protected?" Dorian smiled into the cold wind. "I'm not protected. I'm documented." He hung up, stood on the sidewalk, and for the first time since the arrest, truly exhaled. Because now they couldn't pretend. Now they knew what he was. Not a father. Not a name on a complaint. Not even a prosecutor. But a man with receipts. And this time, the paper trail pointed back at them. It started small. A whisper in a hallway. A rumor in a closed meeting. Then, within 48 hours, it spread. McKinley leaked confidential case files. He tampered with sealed documents. He used internal records to threaten city officials. None of it was true. But that didn't matter. Because now, there was a narrative. An official one. By Monday morning, local media had the headline. Federal prosecutor accused of breach of conduct, DOJ silent. They showed his face. Not from a court photo. From his driver's license. Lores. Cropped. Unflattering. He watched it on a silent screen inside a laundromat near South Wiltshire. No one around him knew who he was. But he saw the headline again. And again. And again. At 11:17 a.m. A subpoena arrived, real this time, summoning him to an internal DOJ ethics hearing. He smiled bitterly. They built a case against me using the same tactics I exposed. He didn't panic. He prepared. That night, someone tried to break into his apartment. The lock wasn't forced, but the filing drawer was open. The archive was gone. All of it. He stood in the center of his living room, cold air drifting through a half-cracked window. Whoever it was, they were smart. No prints. No cameras. No signs. But he didn't need the papers anymore. Because what they didn't know, what no one knew, was that he had memorized it. Names. Dates. Redactions. Cross-references. All of it. It wasn't evidence anymore. It was testimony. And that was something no one could steal. The next morning, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. The voice was male. Flat. Government. Mr. McKinley, we advise you to retain counsel. Why? The city's opening an investigation. Into who? Into you. Pause. We also advise you not to speak to media. I haven't. You won't get another warning. Dorian didn't respond. He just hung up, then walked to the window, looked out at the quiet street. No sirens. No protests. No outrage. Just silence. Because when you destroy a black man quietly, no one hears the sound. But he wasn't done. Not even close. He pulled a yellow notepad from his drawer. Wrote a single word. Deposition. Because the only weapon they feared more than exposure was testimony. Under oath. On record. With no way out. The hearing room had no windows. No clock. No camera. Just a long table, 8 chairs, and a pitcher of untouched water. Dorian sat alone on one side. Across from him, 3 senior ethics officers, 1 DOJ liaison, and 2 internal affairs representatives from the city. The 7th chair remained empty. The 8th was for the court reporter. They didn't allow his attorney. They called it a preliminary internal review. Unofficial. Unrecorded. Unprotected. He didn't flinch. The lead examiner, a man with steel gray hair and a red DOJ pin, opened a file. Mr. McKinley, this is not a criminal proceeding. You are not under oath. But your answers will determine the future of your employment. Dorian nodded once. The examiner continued. We've received information suggesting you unlawfully retained sealed materials from prior cases. Do you admit this? No. Do you deny accessing records without authorization? I reviewed cases under my security clearance. Nothing more. The examiner's voice remained even. Did you transmit any documents to federal or local officials outside your chain of command? Not without cause. A pause. What was the cause? Dorian met his eyes. Obstruction. Suppression of misconduct. Pattern and practice violations. Complicity. No one responded. He leaned forward slightly. Do you want me to list names? Silence. The liaison to his left finally spoke. Mr. McKinley, what exactly is your objective? Correction. Through exposure? Through accountability. Another pause. Then a subtle shift. The gray-haired examiner closed the file in front of him. Mr. McKinley, off the record, there are people who'd like to see this disappear. Quietly. Dorian didn't move. I'm sure there are. If you walk away now, resign, no further contact. This ends here. No charges. No disbarment. And if I don't? The man's voice stayed calm. Then you'll be discredited. Publicly. Permanently. Dorian looked down at the table. Ran his hand across the surface once. Then looked up again. You already tried that. It'll go further this time. He nodded. I know. And then he said the words that froze the room. Which is why I filed a sworn affidavit. With the Inspector General's office. 3 days ago. The liaison straightened. That process takes months. Not with the evidence I submitted. The gray-haired man's jaw clenched. Dorian stood. I don't need this job. I need the truth. And if I burn for it, so be it. But I won't be the only one. He turned and walked out. No one followed. No one spoke. Because in that moment, they understood. They could smear him. Fire him. Erase him. But they couldn't outlast him. 2 months passed. No call. No letter. No reinstatement. But also, no charges. No disbarment. No public statement. Just quiet. Which, in their world, meant one thing. Fear had changed sides. Dorian no longer worked at the district attorney's office. They didn't fire him. He simply never returned. He didn't need to, because one morning in April, a package arrived at his door. No name, no note, just a white envelope. Inside, a photocopy of a letter. Header: United States Department of Justice, Office of the Inspector General. Subject line: Notice of Internal Referral, Civil Rights Inquiry. Below that, 3 sentences. We have reviewed your affidavit and attached documentation. This office has determined sufficient grounds to initiate a referral to the Civil Rights Division. Further updates will be communicated as the investigation proceeds. He stared at the page for a long time, not because he didn't understand it, but because he did. It meant the process had started. Slow, hidden, but real. He folded the letter carefully, slid it back into the envelope, and placed it in the drawer under his kitchen sink. Then he walked outside. The air was clean, spring sun cutting through branches overhead. He didn't feel triumphant. He didn't feel safe. But he felt something better. Clear. No one apologized. Reynolds remained on the force. Maynard transferred districts. Chief Haver announced early retirement for family reasons. The public never learned the details. No press. No headlines. Just motion behind curtains. But Dorian had never wanted noise. He only wanted correction. That night, he sat on the couch beside Nia, who had fallen asleep with her head on his lap. She didn't ask about that day anymore. But sometimes, in her drawings, there were still shadows. A man in blue. A silver bracelet on someone's wrist. A car with flashing lights. And always, next to the shadow, a figure in gray, small, quiet, but standing. She didn't know what it meant. But he did. He turned off the lamp and whispered the words he had never said aloud since it happened. They didn't break me, and they never will, because the system had taught him everything it knew. And now, it was his turn to teach it something back. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire action and hope.